Back. I'm not sure if you're watching this later on YouTube, if this is going to be part of the same segment, or if we're just going to throw it all away. But I'm continuing my work to try to plug in some browser fun into the Twitch stream. So as you can see here, I've got this browser window here, a little header on it, and then some streaming notifications, and then up in the far corner, that way I guess, the same thing exists. We've got the Be Right Back screen up at the top with no exclamation point because I just changed that and I'm going to test it in a minute. And then also the streaming notifications, but they're much bigger. They've been running a lot longer there. And then in the earlier part of the stream, we also got this debugger working. That way I can see what the what OBS is actually going to serve, what the content's going to look like there, and then also get the console to interact with it and use it. And I just got this working that way. It automatically recompiles. So now I have super dev mode running in OBS. That way I get the little compile pop-up to say, hey, this isn't quite right. Let's go ahead and rebuild it. It's triggering the compile in the background here, as you can see. And then once it's finished, this section will close. It's going to take a little while, I guess. I'm not sure why it's taking so long to recompile. It's just a little change there. Doesn't really matter. We'll figure it out later. It was 3 seconds total last time. There we go, 31 seconds. A lot longer than expected. Anyway, there is our pop-up at the top. So this is an overlay. It covers the mouse, as you can see. I am not able to see the overlay running directly. I would need to have a separate window running if I wanted to actually monitor that content as it appears. But it could work out as a, hey, here's how we put chats up, here's how we, I don't know, potentially flare content to say where it's coming from, get some pop-ups when events happen in GitHub to say that, hey, there's something interesting we should go look at, chat from Gitter, all kinds of fun options. To get this all going with the debugger, we're going to document this shortly, but we have to run OBS in a slightly different way. We can pass remote debugging port to OBS directly, and then by doing that, we are able to, from Chrome, say, where's the Chrome window so I can show it? Here it is. We can go to the Chrome Inspect for devices, and then there's this remote target on localhost that I can click on to say inspect, and that's what pops up this window so that we can actually debug it while it's running, and I can even refresh it and change the URL, change navigation in some way if we want. And then just for the additional context, over here in OBS itself, going to look a little weird in a moment, we have this now infinity mirror thing going on because I have the browser piece here at the top, and I can refresh the page, and I can click on this button to give me a copy of the window so I can directly interact with it, and I can change the properties of the window itself to say, hey, here's where you should be navigating to so that we can edit it. And the way I have this set up right now, it will always work through super dev mode, and is expected I'm going to run super dev mode to make all this stuff run, and then it will automatically, when I refresh, show me with no other server, show me the latest version. There's one tiny little change here that happens through OBS, and this is the custom CSS to make sure that the background is 0000, so red, green, blue, alpha, and alpha is transparent, to say go ahead and make the background of the body tag transparent, and then also stick a little bit of a zero margin in there and hide the scroll bar, because we don't want that. If we get rid of any of these pieces, things start to look a little funny. I think we actually want to make this part of the plain HTML file to begin with. Anyway, there's some other room we can go with here. Next steps are finishing this Be Right Back screen, because I've got this fake BRB header at the top. We should tidy that up a little bit, and then make it into like a single panel here. We should see about integrating with the OBS API itself, so that when I trigger the BRB, it goes to this screen, which really just, that time is going to be put the correct banner in place, mute audio. It's still going to be the same browser window, I think. I don't think we're going to actually change browser window. We'll see how that goes. And it may not even be a scene thing. It may just mute the mic and hide the camera, and just leave a BRB banner on this part of the screen. there are good reasons to want to actually hide the whole screen too. For example, if I'm setting up a Zoom call or something, that might make sense. Anyway, there's lots of opportunities there. Other opportunities are running a WebSocket server. That way we can communicate content back and forth with other tools, and we can steadily integrate other things we think are. So lots of opportunities for fun stuff to do there. Okay, so let's oh, I did not save that. I should have done that. Let me grab the URL real quick and fix that. For debugging purposes, oops. For debugging purposes, we also have filters we can set. That way we have the ability to say, hey, let's go ahead and make this transparent. That way it doesn't really show up, which could be helpful where I'm trying to show how I'm debugging it. So if I switch back over to my IDE screen, we're going to need to reconnect here. Is this going to come back? Oh, you jerk. We'll open it again. There we go. It would be a little silly to run multiple copies of the same thing at the same time. We've got this view here. I can make this much bigger by doing this. Might even generally want to have it nice and big like this. That way we can actually interact with it. But it starts to get a little silly if it's much bigger and in multiple places on the same screen at the same time. Starts to get a little silly if it's got much bigger content, like if these individual pop-ups in the corner here, or from your perspective up here, end up being wide enough to actually read, or have real content in them from an actual user typing a message in chat. We'd want to be a little more careful. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Oh, I have not been rolling captions. I'm a bad person. Let's fix that. Oh no, I have been running captions. It just never quit them when I left, so they've just been running this whole time. Oh well. Not the first time that's happened. Anyway, the way to get super dev mode, the cheaty way that I got that working, was by changing the HTML file to just reference this magical URL here, which is basically the same as saying app no cache.js, except always recompile every time I load it. You can't do this if you're not running super dev mode. It's sort of my hunch that we'll always be running super dev mode for something like this, if this is running. Maybe we'll just have some other way to say, hey, trigger the one or the other, but not both. I don't know. Could get a little weird. We'll see. The other way is just to set up a proper server and have super dev mode feed output to that server, but that's another whole thing we'll have to worry about. Okay. Yeah, so let's go back to how we were setting this up. Let's try to get this BRB screen a little less crappy. We'll try to pretend there's an actual BRB screen, put it up all over the whole screen, and then if it's in the way, we'll bump that transparency so that it's not really in the way anymore. But then we can keep iterating on it and getting it to look a little better. So let's pull this back here. I think I can just stick a new line or two. And then we saw some other helper method in here. There's a whole bunch of methods because they all extend from the same thing. This is Domino UI we're using to try to interact with this. Let's look in some of these other panels that are built in here. So if you were to look in these other tasks and how they come together, floating? Is it possible that's going to do this? Perma floating. Make the label always floating over the field, even if the value is empty. Okay, so that's not it at all. I was thinking like float left. And then it turns on placeholder. So what I don't understand is why this info box, which is rendered through infobox.create, is so very different from this is the wrong one. From this info box, where we say infobox create, give it a background, give it some text, and then there's this hover effect, which is specific to this example here. Anyway, it seems like we can do a lot with these animations too to make it look better. I was kind of expecting... Well, it doesn't matter. I'm not sure what it means by counters. We'll have to keep digging in here. I'm guessing when you append this to a span, it's going to behave differently because it's going to be, what do you call it, inline versus block. So let's poke at that real quick and see what happens if we start changing some of the DOM setup. I'm going to make it super tiny, and I'm just going to look at the real thing, which is why I've got the opacity back up to 100%. If we look at our BRB pop-up, which is this one, if we make that, I guess it needs to have a parent that is display inline. Nope, that's not it. So what am I missing? Why, when you do it in a span, spans child, does it look good? Let's go ahead and change the background too, and we'll put it in another container. Not really sure what this column span 3 is about. Why don't we look at that, see what happens there too. Then we're going to do set background of color dot same blue as we have for the little pop-ups as they stream by. We may want to do a different color. We'll figure that out later. One problem at a time, I think. And then we're going to say and child of the info box. Now it's in the span. The span is in the document. And then we go ahead and refresh and see what happens. It should recompile. Okay, cool color. Icon is visible. Pop-ups are streaming in. Still getting full width. So I'm still missing something about what's happening here. Why do these get... What is this element? What is interesting about this element such that the width is passed on like that? We might need someone who actually is good at browsers, like Ahmed or Justin, to help out here. Let's see here. Here's our grid. The grid has the info box in it. Our styles chunk is down here. Why don't we look at what span 3 does? Creates a new column with a size of 3 columns for screens that are larger or equal to medium, and size of full row for screens that are smaller and equal small. I'm not really sure what that is supposed to mean. It does make it seem like resizing will change the behavior of this somewhat. Did we notice that here if we keep tweaking this? Oh yeah, look at that. So now they're full size. And it tells the change of screen size. Small screen, medium screen. Now medium screen shifted it to individual pieces. Okay. Not really what's going on here, though. It looks like these are full width, though. They seem to be some smaller width at first, but I guess these just take all the available width that we can have. So I might be thinking about this wrong. Looks like the BRB is this top title text, and then there's this bottom text where we've got this percentage. Does that mean there's more than one? Yeah, it looks like there's more than one string we can pass in there. So something like And then we're going to want to also move it down and give it a specific width. Okay, so that doesn't look terrible if we said take that time, update it every second to say how much it is. Does that look okay for the text itself? Quit development stream, something like that. We can put something else in. Let's try giving it a width and center it. Align center. What do you think that's going to do? I imagine we have to give it a specific width for it to make a difference. Yeah, so let's try a width of like 400 pixels. Max width. We'll just try that to get started, see what happens. What I'm looking way over here at is my OBS screen. Okay, so that's better, but still weird because it's not aligned center. Did I put the line center on the wrong thing? No, I did put it on the info box, so I'm guessing it just doesn't apply for what I was hoping it to do. Style line center is just going to be... Okay, there's a specific class. What is a line center? What does that class indicate? Text align center. Okay, so that just means that the text itself, it's aligned. Oh yeah, and you can see it, the GWT development stream content itself got aligned center. Okay, so that's not at all what we want. We want something like margin auto to pop it into the middle. Let's recompile. Recompiling stream. We really should change that text there to be like recompiling. The recompiling app, recompiling stream. We can do that. Hey, look at that. There we go. So now we need a little bit of a alignment down. And I am just going to hack and slash that in because I need someone with actual styling superpowers to do a better job than that. Might be too narrow, too. All right, so what if we said top 400 pixels? I'm sure that isn't going to do anything because it's not absolutely positioned. We give it a relative. Is that enough to say move it down? No, it does not seem that it is. Am I editing the wrong element? That would be embarrassing. If you put top on a no script, it doesn't do anything. Fun fact. Learning top-notch HTML development here on the VertiSpan stream. Okay, let's try that. Is it the right element now? Oh, maybe I did have it on the right one. It was just highlighting funny? That's bizarre. No, it wasn't. Okay. I'm just an idiot. We want top 300 pixels. There we go. That's not half bad. Okay. So probably we want a little wider than that. Maybe 500 pixels. I really want it just to be just another notch bigger, but I think I actually want everything to be a little bigger. I think I want the pop-ups to be bigger, etc. So let's try top of 500 pixels and max width of 500 pixels. Oh yeah, we could use margin for that, right? What's the order of margin? It is top, right, bottom, left. So we don't care about top. No, I'm sorry, we do care about top. 500, right, auto, bottom, 0, and left is another auto. And then max width is 500. And then I really want to like a make big button. Size. Set font size bigger. Bigger. Big. There's just so many handy methods, I kind of assume that such a thing will exist. But that would really be kind of silly to put that on everything, right? Can you imagine, just calling some random other grid and saying, oh, make it bigger? That sounds awful. There's probably some other layout-specific thing to say, hey, make things pretty and usable. Forms, data table icon, more icon, typography. I suppose we could bump just the font size, because I kind of want the icon to get bigger too. So I don't think that's sufficient. A helper? Do we just have a make it all bigger helper? No. Seriously, this would be less embarrassing if Ahmed or Rafat were around to tell me what I'm doing wrong. All right, well let's just see how that looks right now. Recompiling. Oh, failed. Oh no, we did something terrible. Make sure that that is what you really want. Oh, we left a dot in there. We were trying to write something new. So that's kind of fun. I really do want to rename this though, so we get compiling stream. That's not terrible. So if we put that up and we also like grayed out and or blurred the background, that could be kind of fun. We need to make a button for this so I can click the button and make the thing happen. Let's look at MDN blur CSS. So the problem with the Gaussian blur is that it's totally reversible. I can't have any actual private information on my screen because anybody could just take a screenshot and then reverse the blur. So we're going to need something more than just a blur to make this work. But it'll get us started. So it looks like it is filter colon blur of whatever. And then we want to apply this to the whole page except for the pop-up. Which kind of suggests to me we would make one container for everything except this, but I also wanted to hit the chat messages as they come through. Do I want that? Gotta think about that. Yeah, let's just look around to see. Browser blur everything except one. And here we go. Except one element in the body. So here's some oh, it's not all that bad. It's a jQuery, so I kind of assumed it was ancient, but it's 2017. A better solution from 2023. I'm using backdrop filter. That's interesting. To make sure the element's behind the backdrop instead of the element itself. Backdrop filter. Lets you apply graphical effects such as blurring or color shifting to the area behind an element. Because it applies to everything behind the element, to see the effect, you must make the element or its background at least partly transparent. Oh, I see. So what you do is you put it's like putting a piece of glass over frosted glass. You get to put frosted glass over everything else. That's interesting. So we could put the BRB dialog inside of a div. Make the div big, cover the whole page, and then frost it. And then you can't see anything else underneath it. That is slick. Okay. I'm guessing we're going to want more than just blur. Let's think about blur image to destroy information. I don't actually want, to be gone and have people actually see what's going on. Is blurring an... You can't actually read all that. Sorry. Is blurring an image an unsafe method to obfuscate information in images? Here we are only assuming images which are not blurred using a filter applied to the image, and not as a result of a poor capture, motion, or optical blur. Deblurring is possible, and you see support in many image processing tools. However, blurring intentionally reduces the amount of information, so to truly get back the image would require brute force. Okay, so probably I'm okay, but I don't know. Let's see. Blurring with a low amount of entropy is much less secure than blurring something like a human face. In short, it is indeed possible to get back an image that, if blurred, will result in the same image you provided. It would probably be safer if you chose to black out the sensitive content. Right. I don't know what's sensitive here because I'm just guessing about what's going to work here. And art of a checkerboard on a... Okay, fine. That's just an example. What I really want to do is take away information first by breaking the whole page down into like squares and throw away information in that way, and then blur it. I think that would do the job as far as I care about. So we want some really harsh... Draw my screen in 500 pixels. 500 pixels is like 25 times 20? Something like that. Just to get some kind of a ratio going here. Maybe we look at some other image filters that are possible. Where's my MDN? Over here, I guess. No, they got the filter over here. There's probably a whole list of filter functions. Yeah, here we go, filter functions. Yeah, I'm looking for something a little more heavy-handed than this, than any of these. Oh, here's a nice, handy... Here's what's this going to do. This is actually super handy because you can just give it a color. We can just give those pop-ups a color and then just hue rotate them randomly. That way you get random colors on them. And it should take the text with it. Say if the text needs to be changed, then that's just what's going to happen. You can partly invert it. I didn't even know that was a thing, to partly invert it. I guess it's going through the saturation and out the other side, I guess. I didn't think that's how color space worked. Oh, whatever. Brightness, okay, that's obvious. You can just blow it out. Excuse me. Drop shadow. What kind of a shadow is it going to build out of that? Oh, that's not terrible. I wonder what drop shadow is going to do for solid objects. Or just like a whole page. If we put that on the whole page and just said filter, drop shadow. Oops, that's not how you do that. Because if it does it per character, well, the problem is it's not going to do it. I have been imagining this whole time that everything gets treated like an image, and the image gets fed forward into into here. But that is total nonsense. The image is not going to get fed into the Chromium process and then get blurred. Instead, it's only going to blur its own content. So we need a filter applied in OBS. And I am entirely barking up the wrong tree. Okay, let's go look in OBS. So if we had the stream itself, which is, let's turn this off for the moment, and we'll turn the camera off, and we'll just take the corner of one monitor that I usually do this with, and let's try appending a filter to it. We'll put a visual filter. Okay. We can scale it to something awful to just chunk the whole thing up, just make it impossible to read. Oh, it scaled it down. I don't want it to scale down. I want it to stretch it. I want it to throw away information by scaling, and then we can also blur it just so we trash it pretty good. This is not helping. I'm going to throw a couple of these in here real quick, and then we will figure out which one we actually want later. It's not color correction. It's not going to be sharpen. I don't think, anyway. Yeah, I'm not sure we got the right tools here for any kind of a filter to put on this. It might just need to have a different screen capture, and that screen capture will just have different properties, and those properties will be throw away as much as possible. Yeah, I don't think this is gonna, none of these are gonna do what I want. It's a scale. I don't want scaling though, I want, like, change the resolution. Color correction. Man, 5 viewers are watching this. Hey, Ahmed, you're here. I'm sorry, I missed you before. And Domino, you can just use a modal dialog. Yeah, I don't think I actually want a modal. I mean, maybe I do. It might make sense. But I don't want actual buttons. I want it just to look, just to cover the screen. So we've got that feature here, but still no blurring. We should probably get rid of all those filters because they're gonna make me regret this later. I'm curious why there isn't an actual... Oops, did I just break something? Oh, no. I think we're okay. Yeah, that's the screen, and then the properties tell us which corner it is and how big we're getting. Animation menu entry. Help me out here, Ahmed. Oh, animations. What am I looking at here in the animation menu entry? Not sure what I'm supposed to be looking for here. The last one. Roll out. Is what you mean? I'm in animations already. Which animation am I after here? Sorry, loader. Oh, sorry. Loader. Is loader one of these options? It's a component. All right. Yep. Okay, I got it. I think you're just really lagged, Ahmed. What are you telling me about this? I don't quite understand what I'm seeing here. You gonna put the screen back together? Oh boy. Oh, when you unpause it, they all queue up. I think Justin encountered this with chat, that they all queue up and then they're all gonna fade out at once. I'm curious about this collapsing when you get a chance, Ahmed. What's up with new ones popping in? The last one hides the content and you can attach the counter. Yeah, no, I think I'm okay with the mechanics of making it happen. I'm just trying to figure out how to visually say, once this pop-up, which is that way, once that pop-up appears, how do I blur the rest of the screen, which has to be in OBS necessarily, because the browser only has the content that the browser knows about, which looks like this. The browser doesn't see the rest of my screen, so it's not able to blur those things. I need to add a filter on the OBS side to say, I want you to blur the junk that's over there. I am hoping you can help me understand why, when I've got a couple of these going, they seem to hide each other. So the last one slides under it. Just because that could get a little irritating if other chats disappear as soon as a new one appears. You don't have much time to reply. I've got it set for a 10-second duration, so it should stick around for a little while. But every 3.5 seconds, I have a new one show up. So I've got, a couple seconds to read each one. And in theory, people stop talking eventually, so I can keep up and read everything. The nice thing about that is it keeps it burned into the video so that we can all see the video later on YouTube, and maybe we can get captions stuck in there too eventually. Feed those in through a WebSocket. So anyway, that's what this is about here. This is going to be a separate piece to say when you trigger the Be Right Back screen, it's going to kick us over to a different OBS scene, which is what this is about here. And then once you're in that scene, how do we make it blur the rest of the content? Not the content there. I bet we could do it here in this group. Blending method. We may just need to ask the internet for this, because I don't seem to have filters. I want a blur and I want a downsample, a pretty severe downsample. I can watch videos of other people do it. I really am just hoping there's a button already on it. Scale filtering point. Scaling aspect ratio filter. Let's switch back over here. Set the filters for my monitor. Bring up scaling aspect ratio. And then, what am I setting this to? Scale filtering point. And then resolution is something very low. So that makes it look small. And then you have to resize it. Yeah, okay. I want like a Gaussian blur. This is just going to be a resize thing. You can't read this anymore, and I apologize for that. Let's if I resize this up, how terrible does that look? Oh, I see. It's going to be... No, that's not the right one. That's the browser window. I can't seem to resize that part of the screen. Today on how to screw up your stream while other people are watching you, let's just turn off that filter. Oops. Yeah, point doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter which kind you did here. Slows. We'll come back to this later. I want that kind of a blur so I can downsample, and then I want a Gaussian blur too, just to really murder it. There's actually 2 S's in there. Looks like you've got to add other plugins. I just need to check my child coming home from the bus. All right. I'm aware this has been asked before. The answer was no. In fact, this has been discussed many times through the years. No, without some GPU intensive using CSS. I would take CSS. Can we actually use CSS? Is there any chance that's going to pass through there? Through the CEF Chrome thing? I guess that is pretty bad. Okay. Tens of milliseconds to compute it. Yeah, okay, they're saying it doesn't work that way. That was my assumption. Gaussian blur. Yep, alright. I'm going to give up on this. We're going to have a different way of doing Be Right Back. Probably we're just going to integrate into OBS to say grab, swap the scenes. So we should look at the OBS API next, I think. How we could change that back and forth. Ahmed, if you're actually at your computer, if you got a second, if you're not, don't worry about it. We can talk about it later. I just don't get these notifications. I don't understand why they're behaving like that. Let me look if I've got this tab open still. There we go. And here's the JS bindings. So we can listen to those things happen. And then we're going to want to modify the scene, change the scene. Here we go, change scene. So we need advanced for this, and we can do window, OBS Studio, get current scene. So we're going to need to start making some JS interop for this to declare what that's going to look like. Let's just play with a few more of these things here and get this a little bit closer, and then we will move on to something separate, like documenting it, like rebuilding this Git repo. That way it makes sense just to host this particular content. So let's try a timer on this. To say when we call render countdown box, we're going to want a button. So it's going to look like button dot create. So this is going to put it in a pretty terrible place, but we'll eventually build real proper integrations into this. And then we need to also add a handler. Event will call render countdown box. Okay. And then render countdown box will make the pop-up, which we will factor out to its own object. I don't think we want that. I think we want the whole span popped up. So Ahmed, you might have some more opinions here on this. Actually, I don't even need that anymore now that I've got this done right. Let's take a little look. Recompile. Okay, that's decent. Still looks decent. The sizing looks weird now. I don't think it's respecting the width I originally gave it. Let's see here. The button is up at the top. The whole thing has a width of what? Max width is 500, but I guess now it has a smaller width than that. So I guess we just need to specify a plain old width. And not call render countdown box until we hit the button. That'll be our next step here. If that integrates nicely, then we can just say add the timer to it. All right, so here it is. I can't actually click a button at the top because my mouse goes underneath the button, but I can click it in this. I'm careful. There we go. Be right back screen comes up. Okay. So now we want to factor this out to its own object. We're going to call it pop-up. We've already got an icon. Progress bar would be fun to put in also. I guess we need a proper panel to hold that then. Timer. So we want something that goes off every second. It tells how long it's been since we initially started to draw this. So let's say what the starting time was. Actually, I guess we just do millis would be just fine. And then we set up a timer to run. And we want to have a, how long should we run it for? And 300 seconds would be 5 minutes. Cool. And we subtract out what the current time is minus start. Okay, and then we have to render that as minutes and seconds. I'm probably doing this directly under the background. Be right back screen, aren't I? Yeah, that's a class move there, huh? Sorry, I meant remaining. What are you unhappy about? Oh, I guess we can cast it down. This is going to be an int, though, realistically. We can just go ahead and say it's going to be an int. Cast that to an int. All right, now we got minutes and seconds. And now we can say we call it message, body, text, description, value. All right, value, good enough. Start message plus space plus minutes. Put a colon in there. Seconds. I think that's right. Does that look right? And then every second we schedule it so that we might get a little bit of drift, but whatever. We'll get it. It'll all come out in the wash. Oops, I lost my debugger for some reason. Oh, because I hit it. Does that break it when you do that? Oh, it comes back. Okay, cool. So we've got the timing here. What else did we need to do? Stop scheduling when elapsed is 0, and then schedule if it is not 0. So we need to have a lambda factored out to its own thing, step function, and then we need to say schedule that right away, which could also be phrased as just call it. Oh, but I can't do this because I'm inside the lambda, can I? That's irritating. We need to make an actual function for this then. Okay, so let's pull this out into a method. Oh, this is just irritating. We gotta close over all that junk. Okay. Most of these will remain constants through the whole thing. We just need a call to this. Well, whatever. This is okay. It's not great. Duration is a constant. Start message is a constant. Start is, yeah, they're all constants basically. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and run that just once. And then we'll go ahead and inline some of these. Yeah, that looks okay. Let's try it. Bring it back. Whoa, that's a lot of pop-ups. And we get the Be Right Back screen. I can't actually click on it yet, so I got to bring the mouse up here and carefully in this debugger view, click on it. And something didn't work. Unless I just clicked wrong. There we go. Hey, it's way totally wrong. So first of all, I set it for 300,000 seconds instead of 5 minutes. Fixing that might get us in a better shape. Slightly less embarrassing shape. 5 minutes. And now we're just modded and divided all over the stupid place. Okay, so that's not right either. We want to divide this because the remaining is in milliseconds. So we need to divide that out into seconds. Or mod and divide it out there. I think this will work. This will be close enough. Also, we have to pad zeros and single-digit numbers. And we have to remember to actually hit refresh. You can't just click on it and hope that it works. So when it gets to 0, it's just going to do what exactly? All right, so this is elapsed. Duration should have been 300, except duration was originally, yeah, we had this right the first time. It was just this scaling factor we needed to fix. I think I want to remove that scaling factor and factor it into here. That way it's a little more precise, but I don't think it actually matters much. Pop up. Go. Hey, there we go. Timer. Okay, so that's the idea. It's still not big enough. I think I'm going to solve the big enough by just scaling everything. Basically saying, command plus, the equivalent of that, which does not actually do anything. We can do that in OBS. Set the properties of the filter. Instead of being, oops, wrong one. Set the properties of the browser. And then just divide these both down by 2 or something. So 1920 is like what? 950 plus 10 is 960. And 1080 divided by 2 is 540. Is that right? Yeah, that does not look terrible. Wait. I gotta scale it back up. And that does look pretty fuzzy, now that I look at that text. I think we're better off scaling content inside the app instead of messing around with this. Let's try one more thing, though. Let's bump these sizes down a little bit. So cut them in half. Leave the margin alone. Okay, that's not terrible. It does look fuzzy, though, right? Let's see here. Let me pull it up on another screen. Yeah, it's fuzzy compared to the actual content. So we are scaling it in the wrong way. Okay, let's put it back. I want number 6. I want to change the properties. It was 1920 by 1040. Yeah. No, I need 20 by 1080. There we go. Okay. And then we'll refresh over here to bring it back. And then we just need to specify bigger font sizes, bigger icon sizes. So where do we set up the icon size? Let's just make sure this looks okay again. Yeah, we got to pad that 0. We also have to stop if the time gets to 0. If remaining is less than or is greater than 0, then schedule another one. And let's change it to be a 30-second timeout for right now, so we can just test that real quick. And then what was the other thing I was going to do? Increase the font sizes. Let's look at how Domino UI does font sizes. And icon sizes, more specifically. So I see we have a small version, and I know we've got a bigger version. So I will be right back. Just a second. All right. So icon sizes. We know those are configurable. We just don't remember how yet. Create normal demo icon. Looks like a handy helper function. Oh boy. We just jump to the, here we go. Create demo icon. It's going to take the icon and do what to it to specify a size. I mean, it's obviously a different size here than it is when you look at the info box example. So maybe the info box itself does something. Let's look at the info box. Let's see, it's got a class called icon. Maybe that's the ticket? By giving it a class called icon. Let's see, get this be right back screen up. 30 seconds, as we can see. We're just going to show it to make sure it actually counts down to 0 properly. Icon has a width. Doesn't seem to have an effect, though. Giving a giant width doesn't do anything. So what is managing the sizing here of that? It looks like it's making the container wider, but not actually changing the size of the font. What if we change that? Nope, that's not it. Is there an inherited size bit here? Font size. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay. So we've got the ability to change that. Does that still look good as it gets bigger? Yeah, I mean, it's not great. Oh, it didn't hide. We got to the end of the timeout. It didn't hide. We just got to 0, 0, and it did not properly do the add the extra 0. If seconds is less than 10, and it's not a space, it's a 0. All right. Otherwise, we want to say popup dot remove. Does that mean remove from your parent? Element dot remove. Yeah. I think that those interfered with each other a little bit. It looked like that recompile. Oh no, never mind. That can't be related. That wouldn't make any sense. Oh no, it's keeping CSS. This debugger is keeping CSS between refreshes. And this was affected by something too. Some CSS was affected by that. Do I just need to... Well, let's wait for the timeout to finish. And then I'm going to hit the refresh button from OBS and see what happens there. All right. Completely refresh it. Those are still big. It looks like the debugger is keeping its CSS. Okay. I think we're gonna just go ahead and close this debugger then and see if a refresh now fixes it. I won't be able to trigger the be right back, but we'll still get the pop-ups up here. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, so we can bring the debugger back again. There's some state that's getting stuck. No, that's still stuck. It's back again. Well, that's irritating. But not right now is a problem. Let's switch gears and start trying to commit some of this stuff so that we can put some of the pieces together for next time, because inevitably we will forget what we just did. So this is roughly correct. This time that's not a thing. I'll have to rename a bunch of stuff there. Basically, I have to search for any reference to domino do and rewrite it. I think it's about time just to start junking these. Oh yeah, let's talk about how to start things. Where did I put the terminal that's running OBS right now? So here is the command that I'm running. It's pretty close. Where did the public directory go? There it is. I think I'm going to start junking some of this CSS because I don't think most of this is related. We'll just go ahead and knock that one out for right now. Okay, let's do a refresh here again in my debugger. Just get the correct title. Doesn't look like it took the hint yet. Yeah, it still thinks it's Domino Do. Go ahead and hide that for the moment. Oh, I didn't rebuild. That's what's up. There's something else is obviously broken. We'll figure that out. Yeah, okay, we deleted a bunch of stuff, and I didn't delete enough. Just trying to speed up the compiling a little bit and work our way to renaming things and just make a fresh Git repo. Please excuse my my Slack. Somebody who won't read documentation and refuses to learn the programming language he is tasked with working in has questions. I don't understand why it's not muted though. All right. Okay, it's still unhappy because the port is still in use because Quit doesn't like giving up the port for some reason. Edit task dialog cannot be resolved to a type. I did something dumb in here. No, where did I delete something I shouldn't have? Oh, there's a bunch of generated code. Let's try it one more time. All right, let's pull it up in OBS. This time this recognizes it, putting the Java back in JavaScript. Here's our debugger. Yeah, it's still bringing back those other styles. I probably have to quit Chrome entirely. It's very irritating. What's the point? All right, let's quit. Oh, I can't quit Chrome because it's running my captions. Let's get the debugger back up and see if it runs fresh when you close the whole thing out. It doesn't. Let's do a refresh over here so it fixes the styles. Yep, there we go. Styles are fixed. Inspect devices is up. Bring the inspector, and it resized the... It's very irritating. Okay, I think I'm about to give up with that. Because we've got some documentation for what we've got so far. We've got a simple little example here. We need to do the next couple of steps here of bridging the gap to other APIs. For example, this needs to only read messages from the chat, which means we need to subscribe to Twitch and get those messages as they come out of there. And likewise, this Be Right Back needs to be plugged into the Be Right Back screen to say, hey, we need to switch over there. So, okay, I'm pretty happy with that then. Compile times are tolerable, 10 seconds, whatever. Less if we haven't changed very much, or even in this case, anything at all. 3.5 seconds later, we get the wrong size. Well, whatever. It'll be fine. All right, I think I'm going to be done with this for right now. I'm going to do a little bit more cleanup stuff here, and then get back to some regular Gwt tasks. Unless anyone else has got anything for today. Oh yeah, we removed this and there was no effect, so we can delete that file too. Cool. Yeah, there's a bunch more renaming to do in here. I want to thin out the server and shared projects because I'm not really going to run a full server until we get some kind of a WebSocket going to pump data through here. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out. This was fun. I'm really glad this worked so quickly to plug in just plain Gwt into the OBS stream and get some better feedback. I think this is going to be much easier in the future to iterate on. Probably going to make another module or two in client or related to client for talking to OBS directly. We talked about a little bit the OBS browser has its own JS API, and we can go through here and say, here's the different functions to call. It looks like it even has some decently okay external looking things that we could try to generate JS interrupt from. And then Twitch itself has an API that we can interact with. I found one quick build for that. Let me grab that, bring it over here. This is tmi.js. And the idea here is that we can grab that Twitch chat and plug it into the browser directly, which means we can just subscribe to events and say, hey, connect to my user's channel. When a message shows up, let's just go ahead and render it. So that the stream of pop-ups we got going over here will just show the pop-ups as they happen of actual message text. So yeah, that's the plan. We'll have to somehow keep this being checked in so that it doesn't show up for the whole world. But that's not today's problem. That's another day's problem. So thanks for hanging out. I will be back in 2 weeks. Justin will probably be back later this week. I don't think I'm going to be streaming next week. Just going to have to see how life goes. I'm a little busy these days to get pulled in too frequently. But hopefully we'll get back to something a little more normal in the near future. So have a good week. Thanks.